On notes 5.4 part 1, we're going to be finding the LCD, which means the least common denominator. And that's all we're going to be doing on 5.4 part 1. And then part 2 will actually be adding and subtracting fractions. So we have to have that common denominator. That's why we need to learn how to find the LCD. Okay, so notice on number 1, the denominators are not the same. We're going to have to find the LCD in order to add them. But again, we're not going to actually add them today. So if there's only one term in the denominator, you're going to use factor tree. So I'm going to write LCD here. Okay, notice on the 2, I can't use a factor tree because that would just be 1 times 2. So you're always bringing down the first denominator. So I'm going to bring a 2 down. On the 4, we can use factor tree, and that would be 2 times 2. Now, notice on the LCD, we already have a 2, but we don't have 2 of them, so I'll have to bring another one down. Okay, so that LCD would be 4. Okay, so let's try another one. Looking at 2, on 8, we can use factor tree, 2 times 4, 2 times 2. So remember, I told you on the first denominator, you're bringing down everything. So I'm bringing down 3 2's. Look at your second denominator. We can't use a factor tree on 5. And notice we don't already have a 5 in the LCD, so I need to bring it down. So we're just going to multiply all those together to find the LCD. 2 times 2 would be 4, times 2 would be 8, times 5 would give you 40. So 40 would be your LCD. Okay, 3, the 12, use factor tree, 2 times 6, 2 times 3. Again, to find the LCD, you're always bringing everything from the first denominator. So I'm bringing a 2 down, another 2, and a 3. Also notice there's an x that I need to bring down. So I brought everything down from the first denominator. Looking at the second denominator, I have a 3, but I can't use a factor tree on it. And notice that I already have a 3 down here, so I don't need to write it again. X squared means x times x. I already have 1x, but I don't have 2, so I would need to bring another one down. So multiplying all that together, 2 times 2 we would get 4, times 3 would be 12x squared would be your LCD. Okay, so looking at 4, we have a 12, so 2 and 6, 2 and 3. So we're going to bring everything down from the first one. So 2 times 2 times 3, and then you have an x. And then using factor tree on the 16, 2 and 8, 2 and 4, 2 and 2. I already have a 2, already have another 2, so I need 2 more that I need to bring down. I have an x squared, which means x times x. I already have 1x, so I need to bring one more down. So multiplying all that together, 2 times 2 would be 4, times 3 would be 12, times 2 would be 24, times 2 would be 48x squared. Okay, so all of those first 4 examples only had one term in the denominator. If you notice on 5, we have more than one term. If there's more than one term, you're going to be factoring it like what we've been doing with factoring, difference of squares, what adds to the middle multiplies the outsides, things like that. Okay? Alright, so if you look at this first denominator, x plus 5, I cannot factor that. So I always bring down the first denominator. And then look at the second denominator, 2x minus 3. I cannot factor that. If you have more than one term and it's not already in the LCD exactly what it says, you need to bring it down. So I'll need to bring down 2x minus 3. That would be my LCD. You don't want to multiply it together because tomorrow we're going to want it factored. So we wouldn't multiply it together. Okay, let's look at 6. So notice this time we have 3 terms, so we want to see if there's anything that adds to 1, multiplies to negative 2. that would be positive 2 and negative 1. So again, the first denominator we always bring down to find our LCD. Okay, looking at your second denominator, we have an x plus 2. I can't factor it, and notice that it's already in my LCD, so I don't want to write it again. So my LCD would be x plus 2, x minus 1. Looking at 7, I have 2 terms, so we need to factor it if we can, but we can't factor 4x plus 1, so I'm just bringing it down from the first one. 16x squared minus 1 would be difference of 2 perfect squares, so that would factor to 4x plus 1, 4x minus 1. Notice I already have the 4x plus 1, but I don't have a 4x minus 1, so I need to add that to my LCD there. So LCD would be 4x plus 1, 4x minus 1. Okay, last one. Your denominator on the first one has 4 terms, so we're going to factor by grouping. Group only the first 2 and find the GCF. That would be x squared. You're left with 2x minus 5. Remember to bring down your middle sign. They only have a 1 in common, and you're left with 2x minus 5. When I factor that, remember you're writing 2x minus 5 one time, and then you're grouping those 2 together to get x squared plus 1 for your other factor. So to find my LCD, I factored the first one to 2x minus 5 and x squared plus 1. So I'll bring it down. Looking at the second denominator, you're going to factor that. Notice they have a GCF of 2x, and you're left with 2x minus 5. Notice I already have the 2x minus 5 in the LCD, but I don't have a 2x by itself. So I need to bring that 2x down. You can put it at the end or at the beginning. It doesn't really matter. So 2x minus 5, and x squared plus 1 would be your LCD there. Okay, so tomorrow we'll get into actually adding and subtracting those fractions once we find that LCD.